Welcome in to Northern Astrology. My name is Gracey. I am the founder of Northern Astrology and the one that you see usually behind the microphone each week. So I'm excited to be here and talking about the cosmos and how everything is relating to the sky, and the energy around us is absolutely impactful in many ways, yet some people don't really know how to put it through words, and that's where astrology steps in and assists with that process. So I'm grateful to once again be doing something that I absolutely love with you all. So welcome in. Happy Monday. Happy Moon Day. I don't normally talk to people on Mondays, let alone just go ahead and do live streams. So I'm grateful that this season has meant that we do more things with Mondays because we have more primetime spots for the Kansas City Chiefs, which we will be covering their game against the Washington Commanders tonight. And Marcus Mariota, somebody that I like the last couple games, this whole like Geno Smith 2012, and then Marcus Mariota, I remember K-State played against him in the Fiesta Bowl, I think in 2013. Yeah. And I went to that game. So I've seen these people playing. I just don't understand what they're still doing in the league, I guess. It's not that they're still doing in the league. You can have a 13-year career from 2012 to here and like still be very young. It's just that these two haven't exactly been, you know, the Geno Smith and Marcus Mariota, that is, haven't exactly been like, making all these historical record breaking seasons the last few years. So I'm just saying it's interesting to still see them out there. So once again, we will be seeing Marcus Mariota at quarterback tonight facing Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead Stadium. So let's just get right into it, shall we? We had the game tonight featured here as a Taurus rising, that 24 degrees Taurus, that is a Pisces degree. So things might be getting a little bit watery. Let's look at that 24 degrees of Taurus. It is a quite intense one. The karmic degree of that in the Sabian symbols, which you can find here in Linda Hill's 360 Degrees of Wisdom. The Sabian symbols for 24 degrees Taurus, that would be the karmic degree, and then 25 degrees Taurus is the truth degree, and 26 degrees Taurus is the solution degree. That is the three-part method that I look at each and every placement, aspect, angle, whatever it is that you're looking at in a chart. The degrees are very, very important when it comes to understanding and interpreting a chart. So maybe you all don't use degrees. I do. Some people like to use the decans, decans, whatever you want to call them. And those are a little bit more broad. And so I like to go into the finite details and just look at all the little nuances. And that is the degree theory plus Sabian symbols kind of like mashed together to help me with that. So if you're trying to figure out what I'm talking about, you gotta just trust the process, as I am quite the trailblazer here, not knowing too many people that combine the Sabian symbols and degree theory really at all. So first degree is going to be that karmic degree, and that is an Indian warrior riding fiercely with human scalps hanging at his belt. Interesting here, just simply because both teams, obviously Washington used to go by the name of Redskins, and the Kansas City Chiefs have been in the spotlight talking about their name change. As the Kansas City Chiefs have talked about in the front office before, they work with multiple tribes, and the nickname of Chiefs was paying homage to JB Bartle. So that is the nickname that he was given, as he was a very influential figure in the Kansas City area. So they don't really see it as a slight to Native Americans. However, they have discontinued war paint. The horse died, so that's kind of why they discontinued it. But they discontinued word paint running around the field, so a little bit less of the appropriating culture, and really just having a just clean slate moving forward, right? So now we're seeing the Washington Commanders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Interesting that they're both having some sort of connection to native culture. The truth degree of this rising sign for the game today is a large, well-kept public park. So Kansas City is definitely a city of fountains, but it's also very much known for its varied levels of public parks and the fountains that are in those parks and all over the city. So it is very much a city full of parks. I happen to be from what is known as Overland Park, which is like the second happiest place in America or best place in America to live. I don't know. I've been born and raised here, and of course, people who are from here are like, this place sucks. But if it's your hometown and it's a safe place to raise my kids, I'm all for it, and that is definitely the case. So I'll take that title, right? And we are outside of Kansas City. It's kind of nice to not be in the city. The truth or the solution degree to this, the truth degree was just that the large, well kept public park. Then this truth or the solution degree is going to be a Spaniard serenading his senorita. So maybe some Spanish speaking music or some sort of Latin influence this game. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see. Maybe the singing is solid too. We'll get there for sure. But the main thing is today's game is ruled by Venus, and Venus is having a party over in Libra. Libra is where Venus is at home. Venus rules over both Libra and Taurus. So the chart is ruled by Venus in her home sign. So very happy to be there. Venus being in the sixth house means that the wellness and the physicality of today's game is probably going to be quite intense. Lower leg injuries or lower back injuries could definitely be a theme. So keep that open and keep just everyone safe and healthy. That's what I like to watch. When I talk about injuries in astrology game, like in the sports astrology terms, because we talk about it in game a lot, about like what's going to happen, who's going to be on the short end of the injury stick, like who's more susceptible to things. I like to mention that I hate watching gore and bloody things and people in pain. It's like the least happy thing for me to watch. So whenever I'm talking about these injuries or these things happening, please know I am never like, yeah, we're going to see this tonight. We're going to see everybody get all fucked up. No, that is not the case. I am very much on the side of I don't want to see anyone hurt ever, and I want everyone to be safe because my son plays tackle football. I would never want anyone to harm him, let alone have people be out here like, oh, this is going to happen to this guy and, screw him because he's on the opposing team. No, that's never the case. I simply like to point out the fact that there are injuries, and if you can see them ahead of time, hey, so be it, right? Looking into that sixth house, Venus ruling tonight's game, we do see the vertex right next to there in Libra as well, and then the sun in the sixth house as well too. So we have quite a little packed sixth house of physical health, wellness, daily routine. We're going to see who has put in the time and energy and fortitude to really strengthen themselves this game and who has just taken things deeply personally and wants to show out, right? So one thing I'm really excited about today's game happens to be that we have talked a lot about how the different houses represent different things in a sports astrology chart, right? So we have a little bit of, the first house. We talk about how that's like where we can see things, the attitude or the how people show up in this game with that first house having Uranus right there. Even though Uranus is now stationed retrograde, that usually does indicate things getting off to a quick start, right? So I like to say, okay, we're going to see a quick start. Doesn't really matter what team. We're going to see a quick start going through this game. Then the second house I do see as the pace of the game. And that's where I think things are going to be interesting today for sure, just because we have that Mercury ruled second house starting at 20 degrees Gemini. And Mercury is in that conjunction still with Mars in Scorpio. So not only do we have a sun in Scorpio today for today's game chart, we also have Mercury and Mars in Scorpio over there as well. And that Mars is forming a grand water trine with Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer, and then also Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node in Pisces. So quite a bit of energy there with Mercury and Mars in that grand water trine with Jupiter and Saturn, Neptune, the North Node, and then the part of fortune as well. So we might as well just throw that one in there. And then the sun can kind of loosely be a part of that, right? So looking at all that, there are a lot of heavy emotions. We do have Neptune and Saturn both in retrograde, stationed retrograde, excuse me. And having that is a little bit more of an evaluation of sorts. People, now that Neptune is back in Pisces, we are seeing a lot of veils being lifted once again. The 29th degree of Pisces is very much the giving and serving death out to those that no longer fit where we're going next, right? And getting rid of energies that no longer fit the forward motion of what's going to happen when Saturn and Neptune meet in February of 2026. So all of this is leading up to purging a lot of stagnant energy and revealing people for who they are. I made a post in 2024 that said, get used to people being revealed for who and what they are. Saturn is taking out the trash in Pisces while Neptune comes in and clears it all up too. And someone's like, what do you mean by this? You're being a fear-mongering astrologer. And that's just how I imagine them talking. I don't really know if that's how they talk. But it was another astrologer that was trying to like body check me on what I'm saying. And I'm like, exactly what I said. There's a lot of depth to the 29th degree of Pisces. There's also a lot of depth to the death degrees of the zodiac, which are in the last degrees of Pisces. So the last degrees of Pisces, starting around the 20th degree of Pisces down to the 30th degree, those are the death and rebirth degrees. That 30th degree is also that 0 degrees Aries, which is where it all starts back over again. So some people have problems with big words, I guess. Some people have problems with my words that are happening to be big and long-winded. And I just don't really care if someone gets bothered by what I say when I say it with such clarity and I give plenty of descriptions. I do not like fear-mongering people who are like, Sagittarius, Leo, Gemini, watch out. Your hidden enemy is going to jump out of a corner and get you in the back. And it's like, what are we doing that for? I don't want to be a guru. I don't want to be one that people run to. I simply want to show people that there's a different way of living, and seeing yourself through the lens of astrology can open those doors. And I am so grateful for each and every person that encourages me to keep going, even in the face of so many imitators and people that want to be me, I guess, or they want to be me enough to do exactly what I do, but then pay me no credit or anything to the process. It's fine. It's cool. You guys do what you want. I think it's important to know that no matter what I do, I'm going to keep doing what I want. And that's kind of my Aries way. And I think it's cool when I know other Martian people that have, this encompassing energy of get shit done at all costs. They are driven, they are focused, they can come off as very aggressive at times too. I have Mars on my descendant, and it takes people with a very strong Martian presence to not be intimidated by me, right? Or people that are already in motion and people that are already creating. I've never been criticized by somebody doing more than me, ever. It's always people that are like trying to ride my coattails. And that's cool. Like, do your thing, but I'd rather land somewhere because of my own accordance versus riding someone's coattails and just getting there because I skated in. Like, no thanks. So that's where I am with a lot of the energy right now. I know we were talking about that grand water trine in today's game. These games are also transit charts. They are what we are all currently experiencing as well. So this is not just sports astrology. This is current happenings astrology. And not only that, but like we can talk about Chiron, Jupiter, and Venus, and then I don't know, the moon in Capricorn forming a grand cardinal cross. And it's a little stuffy. It's a little bit rigid. It's a little bit, I gotta be first energy. And that's okay. Like, we all have it in us to be competitive, but we need to compete with ourselves. I'm only up against the version of me that streamed last week, right? And I was spot on last week with insights, only that the Chiefs didn't win by 13, they won by 31. That was kind of fun to see such a shutout after I was like, yeah, the Raiders have a chance. Yeah, I was a little bit off on the Raiders having a chance, but that's okay. With each and every game, we get to have this open floor of what did I learn last week, or what did you guys notice last week, and what did you guys mention in the comments, or what could be improved from the time before. There's all sorts of things that I take into account each and every time I stream. I'm like, okay, how am I going to be better than last week? And this week, I think I evened out my eyeliner a little bit too thick, but we're good. We're getting there. And yeah, I'm happier with my makeup that I did from last week. So winning. I'm also in a better place, this time of year with the sun in my intercepted fourth house. Just let me tell you, it is such a journey to get back on track and to make sure that I'm actually doing the things that I need to do for myself and for my own type of, I guess, my healing journey or my spiritual practice or whatever it is. And this weekend and this week actually started off so well. Saturday, the crows came by. Sunday, the crows came by. And Monday, the crows came by. So I am living in my best crow visiting life from my neighborhood crows. They finally stopped hanging out at Taco Bell. Isn't that exciting? They're now in my backyard. But yeah, so we're starting to talk about all the things and all the houses and what they represent and go through the game, but I kind of got sidetracked with the current transits. I just want people to know that if you are feeling the pressure and feeling the crunch of the end of the year, we have until March 2026. That is when the true new year starts over. We are only at the halfway point with Libra and Scorpio season. We are now going into the second half of the year. It's not like we only have until December, okay? So if you are feeling the crunch because it's November and you're like, oh my God, I'm not TikTok or Instagram famous yet, you still have plenty of time. Thank you, Celeste. Oh my gosh, you're the best. Always looking on point. I appreciate that. When a Libra moon tells you that you look on point, they mean it. And Celeste is also a Chiefs fan, and I freaking love her, so I'm grateful that she's here. Yeah, speaking of sixth house Libra stuff, we've got so much. I'm like, sixth house Libra, maybe that's why I'm focusing on appearance so much, because it's ruled by Libra there. You gotta love these things. I think the main thing too is that we have so much of the new moon just happened. This week the 28th is the first day. So tomorrow is the first day that you can start taking action, right? So if you're looking for a time don't start things on Mondays. Mondays are the worst day to try to start something new and have it be sustainable. Mondays are ruled by the moon. Tuesdays are ruled by Mars. It's so much easier to start things on Tuesdays just because that Martian energy will help you follow through so much harder. That's why, yeah, I'm like, if I start something on a Monday, I kind of just know it's going to be like, well, this might work for a couple of weeks. Haha, that's great. But you still have plenty of time to start the things, do the things, and clear that path. That energy. People think just because like a new moon happens, like the day after, we're back to like no impact. Like these lunations are like helping us track our months and helping us time out things if you do it right. One of the tweets that I saw this weekend on the Northern Magazine account was, you need to have a better relationship with the moon. And it's like, if I could tell anyone anything, if you are ruled by the moon, so if you're a woman, you are ruled by the moon, it is important to have that relationship with the moon and learn to see the deception, the illumination, and the guiding light that the moon provides. Even in the dark times, even in the new moon and the dark moon, there are still paths being illuminated. So choose wisely. All right, so I'm finally going to get back to the chart. You're welcome. I just like to take detours. The third house is ruled by the moon. And so I was kind of on topic, right? That Jupiter in the third house, I do think that vocalization and emotional energy will be amplified. Absolutely. Same with that heart-to-heart communication and everything. We get to see a little bit of an experiment because I brought up this passage about the fourth house white moon Lilith, right? I don't normally quote from Astro Gold just because I have so many things myself to say. And so the white moon Lilith in the fourth house, the description talks about You are a guardian of a family. This could be family of origin, your own family bond. Your experiences early in your life usually connected with your father or your father's family are part of your destined path to care for others. Your understanding of family matters gives you a strong urge to belong. You are the duckling in the ugly duckling story by Hans Christian Andersen. You grew up to be a beautiful white swan and find your own family. So, no idea how this translates to football, but I'm going to go ahead and say something about family or a family bond, a family storyline, something like that is going to be on today's docket for the home team. So, once again, I don't follow pregame programming. I don't follow along with anything really that's outside of my social media feeds. And then sometimes I look at the news. But I do know that there's plenty of storylines that people could tell. So there's just something about a family or a heartwarming story or something about protecting the family today that will be a little bit of a theme. So we'll see how that plays out. Because I don't know everything. I am just guessing as well. The fifth house is ruled by Mercury as it starts at 0 degrees Virgo, and that has that lovely south node in there. I think the refs are going to be annoying everyone again today, and I'm sorry. I don't like this. I don't enjoy telling you guys that these zebras are going to be causing strife, yet it's so real that these people have been like making football unwatchable. I had my own rough story this weekend with my son's team and the insane behavior of the other parents. I was like so embarrassed to be on the same side as them. They were just like heckling the refs. And I'm like, do you think anyone wants to ref a youth tackle football game with people like this heckling them? Like, oh my God. So if you're one of the parents watching, boo. I doubt they are. They're too busy reading the local grocery store ads. That's all they talk about at these things. It's amazing. Anyways, we're seeing the South Node in Virgo there, and it's definitely one that has caused some problems for Virgo placements this year. We have not seen this South Node let up very easily on mutable signs as well as Virgo placements. So it's been also Sagittarius, Gemini, and Pisces that are all not only getting rocked, the Pisces are not only getting rocked by South Node and Virgo, they've got Neptune and Saturn back in Pisces. So Pisces have a lot going on, but all the mutable signs do, and the fixed signs do, and the cardinal signs do. So there's that. No one's safe right now. So that's why it's like, we're all in this together. So why like fight each other and like fight the fact that we have so much in common, all of us, like to the point where I can have conversations with my other spiritual friends and we talk about our similar doubts, our similar things that we have going on. And it's like, whether it's caretaking, whether it's, talking about, are we witchy enough? Like I had a conversation about that this weekend. Like, am I witchy enough? Meanwhile, I've summoned crows to my house 3 days in a row, and I summoned them the first day by dancing around on a Saturn day, as I associate Saturn with crows. And yeah, like, come on, Gracey, of course you're witchy enough. There's just so much of that self-doubt that happens when Chiron is in the last degrees of Aries, and it's a mental process. So please do not beat yourself up if you've been going through it. And that South Node is just, if you have any placements around there, just please give yourself 10 to 15 business months to feel better. We're almost there. Okay, so fifth house ruled by Mercury. Mercury and Mars are conjunct in the seventh house in Scorpio. I definitely think that things are going to be heated and things are going to feel flip-floppish with the refs tonight, as well as just like maybe a little bit overcritical. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that. The South Node is also trine the moon in Capricorn. So while we don't have any real other Taurus placements besides that Taurus rising there, it is still going to be a grand Earth trine with the moon rising and the South Node. So just be aware of that. If you're feeling this game, feeling a little bit stuck or a little bit like, I don't know if I should bet this, Vesta is in the 8th house of the Vegas and gambling odds, so there is some warmth in there. Maybe you could try. I do think the Chiefs are going to be winning tonight. We'll just kind of determine by how much soon. Um, you know, with the Venus ruled sixth house that we talked about, and Venus and Libra there in that sixth house, physical ailments or physical strength is going to be tested. You're going to see if people have been doing what they say they're supposed to be doing, if they've been putting in the hours, they've been putting in that training and that extra effort. The sun in the sixth house very much focuses on the vitality and stamina and durability of today's game, and if people are able to keep up that Mars and Mercury conjunction in the seventh house, I do think it's going to be a little bit spicy out on the field. I don't really know why. I don't know why Washington and Kansas City would be beefing. I didn't know if that we were. I don't think we're rivals. I've never thought of them as a rival, so maybe we have that tonight. Maybe not. But definitely going to be a little bit spicy still with that Mars and Mercury conjunction. I felt the spiciness all around. Having a Mars ruled seventh house in the game, I do think that represents the rivalries and the one-on-one competition, whereas that first house kind of is like the personal energy that shows up. Having that Vesta in the eighth house, like we talked about, I think Vesta is like this where you find the warmth, where you find refuge, where you find acceptance, where you find some sort of comfort, right? And it's also this purifying fire of sorts. The Vestal Virgins were a large part of ancient culture, and you can look all that up, and it's like this like purity through fire and keeping the fire going, tending to fire, and where you keep the fire going in your own personal chart. I happen to have it conjunct my rising, so I'm quite devoted to the moon and quite devoted to my lunar studies, to the point where I'm also I think, do I have a magazine? No, I don't have one over here. I'm also writing a book for the new and full moons of 2026 that will be published in March. So very excited. But yeah, develop your relationship with the moon, especially if you have a lunar ruled Vesta. But knowing that the travel team is where I find, or the ninth house, and we talk about the eighth house being more of the murkiness of the game. Gotta get my water in. I don't have weed that I have, that I'm smoking this show. I am just like, not that I don't want to smoke weed and talk about astrology. I absolutely do. I just haven't been to the dispensary. So there's that. Um, the amount of strength that you can find in an eighth house of a game chart, I do think like having that Jupiter ruled eighth house and having Jupiter in the third house, I do think it's going to be fun. It's going to be playful. I think you can do some really fun prop bets tonight, maybe with Sagittarius placements. So I haven't done any of my numbers or signs to watch for, but I'm going to go ahead and say Sagittarius is one that we can look for tonight and see if they stand out at all. Cool. Okay, going into that ninth house, we do have that ruled by Saturn and Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So travel team with that moon and Saturn two, or that moon in Capricorn, moon in Saturn. That's perfect. The moon is in Saturn. It will be, since it's Capricorn and then Aquarius, right? Back to back Saturn ruled signs. All right, so the moon in Saturn and the moon in Capricorn, being ruled by that Saturn in Pisces station retrograde, conjunct Neptune retrograde as well. Not really sure if that's going to make a big impact on the travel team, but maybe foot injuries for the travel team. So we'll see how that goes. Going into that ninth house end where that Pluto is, right on the MC. The MC, or the midhaven, is where the 10th house begins and is part of the angles, and it is the highest point in your chart. So people call it the MC, and it's what the public sees you as. So it can be like this kind of cheat code to understanding your public image sometimes too. Or if you want to try branding around your MC, it definitely works. Going into having your Pluto, or having Pluto conjunct the MC, I know a lot of people that have an Aquarius MC and they've had Pluto dancing around the beginning stages of it for a while, and it's a very transformative placement. I've had a lot of clients with Capricorn MCs with the Pluto crossover, and it can be complete rehaul of personal image, public image, the way that you show up in this world, your career path. There's so much that can happen when Pluto crosses your MC. So having Pluto conjunct the MC in the ninth house with the moon, as the ninth house does represent the travel team in my sports astrology process, I would say that this is a pretty strong push for travel team, but also like a transformation of sorts. I know I've said that a lot with these Taurus rising charts and Pluto being in that ninth house, but it is a transformation. Like I said, when you do play the Chiefs, everyone's like, okay, can we beat the team that's been in all these back-to-back Super Bowls? I know, like, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the chat. I think Sean McDermott said some asinine thing like no one's ever going to get to 4 back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls like the Bills did. I'm like, y'all lost 4. Like, we at least won a couple of ours. Like, come on now. Um, and so if we go back to the Super Bowl and win, then it'll be like, yeah, well, 3 out of 4 of the last Super Bowls we've won, so I think we're okay. Another team will get back to 4 in a row Super Bowls. They won't lose them all like y'all did. So like, pipe down, Bills coach. So weird. I always think that he's Ron Howard. I know it's ridiculous, but I like look at Sean McDermott and I'm like, you're like what Ron Howard used to look like. And I just see him as like young Ron Howard and it freaks me out. Anyways, going into that 10th house, we see Pallas Athena there conjunct the MC loosely by 5-degree orb. Kind of making an impact, but I do think the smarter team and the more level-headed team, the team that remembers to breathe a little bit more, will be doing better tonight. So whoever that may be, they're going to be favored. Going into the 11th house, which is ruled by Jupiter, with that 0 degrees, Pisces being where the 11th house starts, a true 0 degree start to a house. We have the part of fortune, North Node, Saturn, and Neptune all right there in Pisces, with Ceres retrograde in Aries as well. So, jam-packed Pisces energy. Absolutely. Bless me. I'm just glad that my eyeliner's dry. That's a totally different story. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one that sees Ron Howard. Maybe the only one that's brought it up, but that's okay. Okay, going into that 11th house, like I said, ruled by Jupiter, that Jupiter being in the 3rd house. I'm going to need some water. Okay, we're back. I think. I'm like, I can laugh, so I have to be okay, right? Yeah, duh. The 11th house ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter in that 3rd house in Cancer. I can think that Moon is going to be important to today's game. So I do think that the Chiefs are winning by 15 points, at least 2 touchdowns. If you guys are keeping track, that is what I said. I'm writing down the signs to watch, and like we'll get to the numbers here in a second. But that little Pisces stellium, it's going to be not being the victim. A lot of this is, especially with the Grand Water Trine being activated by Jupiter and Mercury and Mars in Scorpio. So not playing the victim, not putting yourself in a bad position, being ahead of yourself, not living with your head in the clouds, not daydreaming too much. Teammates are going to have to be going with the flow. A large part of having so many planets in Pisces and placements in Pisces is like, you got to go with the flow. And that's a really hard lesson sometimes when you are facing Pisces Saturn. Saturn doesn't like going with the flow. The North Node can, Neptune can. Part of fortune is just a point that is calculated by, it's very specific to the exact time. So the exact time of this, the part of fortune is going to be at 13 degrees Pisces. But a lot of this is being able to flow with things. Just because a river is a small trickling stream doesn't mean that at other points it's not a mighty rapids, or at one point it's not going to surge into a mighty rapids. The whole point of being a river is knowing that you go with the flow and you shape everything in your path. Being like water can be very destructive if you shape everything in your path like a monsoon or a hurricane and you just take out things in your path. Um, that's more Aries energy, right? Aries is that the fire hurricane tornado all in one, and that Pisces death degree, those degrees, the very last part of Pisces does bring a lot of destruction with it. So whatever does not serve the landscape for the teams today, it has to go, and that might be evident after this game. All right, so the last thing we do see is that Mars ruled 12th house, which, ooh boy, are we going to have fun. Chiron in that 12th house, retrograde at the 24 degree, which is once again a Pisces degree, that is making a fun square with Venus and the vertex of today's game, as well as the moon and Jupiter. So a lot of wanting to be first, a lot of trying to maybe assert domination in certain regards. Cardinal signs, you know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I mean by saying assert dominance. Like, you guys can pretend to be like, oh, I don't care who wins. And it's like, I will win at all costs. And that's just, it's okay. I get it. I have a lot of cardinal energy. So definitely going to be fun with today's game. Let's go into the away team just to get it over with. Right? I just say just to get it over with. The Washington Commanders originally started in Boston. They were the Boston somethings that I don't know, but they were in Boston. So I did double check that because I'm like, was I just high? Did I just like decide that I put Boston, Massachusetts instead of Washington, D.C.? Like, what are we doing here? But no. In fact, I think this is my grandpa's birthday. I think his was July 10th. He passed away in 2023, but I'm pretty sure that's the exact same day. So that's exciting. Seeing that they have quite a few placements there in the first house, we will talk about the fact that their Lilith is right on today's rising. So maybe their feminine energy is stubbornly raging. Who knows? Their Chiron in Taurus, which can be your biggest weakness as well as your biggest gift. You can see a lot of things with Chiron as a gift, even though they come off as a really shitty thing in the beginning. Like, for instance, I have a 12th house Chiron in Gemini, and Gemini rules or is home in the third house, and Mercury rules over Gemini. And so it's very much a thing about communication, talking, speaking, verbalizing. My Chiron being in the 12th house kind of shows up as my speech impediment that I've had since I was a kid, and that I work every single second of every single day not to have. And it is a lifelong commitment to not sounding different when I talk. And I can't usually predict when I'm not going to be able to say certain words. It's usually when I get excited or I talk too fast, or when I'm drunk. Who knows? I don't really know what I sound like when I'm drunk because I'm not recording myself drinking, because that was something I did in my 20s, not in my 30s. No thanks. I'm good. There's just something about Chiron that can be triggering, yet it'll direct you to your greatest way of healing. And for me, reading out loud or practicing out loud or singing along to things or rapping along to things with my Gemini Chiron, I learned to strengthen how I spoke. And I did it to the point where I ended up learning how to, I guess, have a nice sounding voice, to the point where now I talk for a living, and I have for quite some time. Being in radio definitely helped with my vocal inflections and learning how to do all that stuff. But I wanted to keep my voice as sounding like me as possible. I don't like vocal fry. It pisses me off when people are like, hey, you guys, a lot of you have been asking. And I'm like, please just give me a deneuralizer straight to my forehead. I do not want to hear those sounds. But don't worry, we're good. So I'm not saying that the Commanders are going to need a deneuralizer to make them forget their possible physical insecurity issues, but I do think that there's going to be a display of possibly their physical insecurity at the beginning of the game, or we'll just see what happens there. Their Mars and Gemini is such a strong placement here. And I want to say that, like, Mars and Gemini is one of the signs that I found in sports astrology that is hardly ever topped, right? You know, Mars and Gemini, it's quick thinking, it's quick reacting with the hands, and it's quick movement. It's a swift movement that I think a lot of people would strive for, a lot of people would enjoy, a lot of people would be grateful for having that rapid ability to think that quickly. But it can also be verbalizing things quickly as well. You might have a racing mind, you might have a racing mouth, you might have both. That can be fun. Having their Venus retrograde in the second house in Cancer at that 1 degree of Cancer, I do think might slow them down a little bit today, just because that is loosely opposite the moon for today in Capricorn, as well as loosely squaring Venus right now. So I don't know how that's going to show up outside of they might not be able to vocalize their frustrations as well. They might not be able to show their emotions as well. They might feel it might take them a little bit longer to figure out how they're feeling. Their moon ruled Sun and Pluto in the third house conjunct Jupiter. Maybe they overlook communication as part of like some sort of weak spot for them. Maybe they don't see they don't have clarity in communication, and they don't have that strength in communication, or maybe they have some sort of transformation of communication, or maybe it's short-term travel, maybe they had a rough night at the hotel, maybe they don't even think about communication at all, and this is something that reveals a blind spot to them with Jupiter there. Or maybe it's just something along the lines of Sun and Pluto meeting Jupiter has been revealing their emotional weaknesses. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't really know much about the Washington team this year, or else I would talk more on what I see there. But going into that fourth house where we do see the home team represented, we have Mercury and Jupiter there for the Commanders. And that to me shows that they definitely have a strong chance of showing up today if they play their hearts out. Their sun ruled Mercury being in the fourth house, I think, could possibly trickle over into the emotional side of things. So they do have to keep their cool, emotionally speaking, and not lose it against the Chiefs. Neptune, as well as the South Node and the moon, all being in the fifth house for today's game, as well as their South Node being conjunct the current South Node. The Washington Commanders are going through their nodal return. How exciting. So the South Node and North Node are loosely conjunct. Not loosely, it's by 1 degree. I need to stop saying loosely just because it's not within like seconds of things happening. Like the loosely part, I've been trained by too many outside influences to think that anything that's not like a tight exact conjunction is a loose conjunction, and that's not the case. So I'm breaking that as we speak. But having Neptune in the South Node and Moon all there in the fifth house does show some attempts at creativity, as well as trying to, I guess, embody that creativity today and show that out through their physical embodiment. They don't have any placements in the sixth house. They don't have anything outside of Pallas Athena in the seventh house. So if anything, they will try to outsmart their opponent if possible, even though Pallas Athena is stationed retrograde for them. In the eighth house, nothing there for the Commanders. And then we see in the ninth house, where the travel team is represented, we see their Ceres loose 4 degrees away from the moon, not loosely conjunct. 4 degrees away from the moon, as well as their Saturn 1 degree away from Pluto, stationed retrograde. So Pluto direct, their Saturn retrograde, and that's conjunct the MC tonight. A sudden unexpected thunderstorm is that 2 degrees of Aquarius. So maybe tonight there's a storm. Maybe that benefits the Redskins or the Commanders. Excuse me, I almost called them their former name. And then the Chiefs are randomly going to just show out. Who knows? We'll see the tri-wheel before I try to like do anything too ornate, right? The 11th house is where their north node is. So if anything, they're going to be kind of experiencing a little bit of a return to the basics, maybe a return to the original plan, maybe revisiting where they were 18, 19 years ago. That's kind of the theme of the nodal return. Happens it's like, for me, I was 18, 19 the last time. Yeah. So 36, 37 for me has been my nodal return. It's been very interesting. Actually, it's just been 30. Yeah. The end of 36 and the beginning of 37 I've had for my nodal return. So a lot of lessons being learned, a lot of things that I didn't master when I was 18, and that's okay. And you revisit them. Their nodal return is from 1932. So I think this is a few of their nodal returns. But if you wanted to go back and look up what the commanders were doing 18 years ago and see if it tracks, who knows? Going into that Mars ruled 12th house, we do see White Moon Lilith as well as Uranus in there, as well as Vesta conjunct the rising as well. So I do think the commanders are going to put up a bit of a game today. I don't think that's going to be anything like we saw last week with a shutout. And I do think they intellectualize their aggression and learn to pace themselves well. I definitely think that's going to be the case. And if they can use this moon energy, the lunar energy well, they will definitely prevail. So we'll see what happens there. We're going to go into this tiny itty bitty Chiefs chart. I don't know why it's so small. There we go. Also, don't want it to take up my face and my space. Like, get out. Okay. Live editing is fun. That's why I do live shows. I was just talking to my friend Mariah. I was like, I hate the idea of editing like anything. So if anyone ever wanted to help me edit videos, obviously I'd pay you for your time. But if anyone that speaks astrology that also would like to help me edit some videos, that would be really cool. Thank you. I would greatly look forward to anyone being able to like come in and do that part, because I might actually start recording videos again. Everything I do now is live, and then I go back and I pull video from it. So I'm like, don't really feel like editing. But getting to the Chiefs chart today, we do have the Mercury retrograde and moon on either side of the rising for today's game for the Chiefs, as well as their sun conjunct Uranus retrograde. And that's just been a doozy all season. We just never know what the hell is going to happen with this team. So I'm definitely excited to see Mercury retrograde and the moon hugging that rising and giving a little bit more of a familiar feel. I do think emotions will be high, as well as mental projections. So making sure to not take mental frustrations out on anyone but the person that you're frustrated with, which sometimes will be yourself. Sometimes the biggest op in the world is yourself. And people want to blame it on, oh yeah, the CIA is out to get me, or oh yeah, people are stalking me, and people are really just watching everything I do. And it's like, okay, well, sometimes also we are our own biggest obstacles. And the first house showing that could be it. Like, we could show some emotional obstacles tonight, who knows. Going into that second house, we don't see anything for the Chiefs there. Third house, we do see their north node, which has been conjunct Jupiter this entire season. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're like routed for destiny, right? I do believe the Chiefs are going to be back in the Super Bowl. And I mentioned this in August when I was previewing the season with the one and only Steffi Smalls. I mentioned, yeah, the Chiefs are going to be back irritating absolutely everyone this year. And I'm fucking here for it, because I love the fact that my little team from nitty gritty Kansas City has been pissing off the entire NFL. Not like, we don't have a ton of superstars and all that to show for it. Like, we absolutely do. And that's definitely why we're dominating like we have been. But it's just like, it's been a lot of blind spots, weaknesses, and overcoming the obstacles. In this one, right back in the third house, is going to be another mental communication, the way we treat each other, the short-term type of energy that we're giving to this game in this moment, the travel, maybe the travel or the methods of travel people take to get to the game could be a part of the feature. But going into the fourth house, where we do see the white moon Lilith for today's game, we talked about that being a family centric and guardian type placement in a natal chart through Astrogold. It was a really cool description. But for the Chiefs, we see Pallas Athena as well as Mars right there in the fourth house. And with Mars in the fourth house, I do think the Chiefs are going to dominate and give their best efforts, quite aggressive efforts, as well as they're going to put their heart in this. And there's just something about the heart and something about this being a heartfelt type of game, or maybe they're focusing on somebody. I know that there was a picture of all the players that were clapping, or the video of all the players clapping for the veteran that they had up on the screen, and that correlated with the Sabian symbols and astrology of that game too. So I was just like, oh my gosh, it all connects. That's what astrologers have been knowing for a while. But it was just really cool to see. And, maybe we'll see some more heartfelt showings, displays of emotions tonight. Going into the fifth house, as we see, there's a cluster of Virgo energy, as the fifth house starts at 0 degrees Virgo, and we see Uranus as well as White Moon Lilith, Ceres, Pluto, Juno, and Vesta there for the Chiefs. So I do think they get creative tonight. I definitely think they're going to be on their creative toggle mode. They're going to be joystick plays, all sorts of gadget plays, whatever you want to call it. And the Chiefs are absolutely going to be maneuvering creatively tonight. Going into the sixth house for the Chiefs, we do see the sixth house starting at 8 degrees Libra. That is represented by a fireplace blazing in a deserted home. I love that. Very layered symbolically, but we can get into that another time. We do see Neptune retrograde as well as Lilith retrograde there for the Chiefs, both in Scorpio, loosely conjunct the sun. I say loosely because it actually is this time, not just saying things. So grateful you guys are here to cheer me on. Going into that seventh house, we don't see anything for the Chiefs as well as the eighth house, but we do see the south node for the ninth house, which is what I like to call the travel team. So very interested to see how that south node in the ninth house plays out again. I do think it is just that familiar energy the Chiefs are used to, so they're going to be able to kind of bully the Commanders a little bit. That south node is loosely conjunct. There I go again. The moon, and that's 6 degrees away. So definitely interesting to see how the south node and moon conjunction will play out tonight for the Chiefs. It might be a little bit familiar. It might be a little bit stoic. We'll see how that goes. 22 degrees Saturn in Aquarius is definitely going to be loudly on display tonight. The kill or be killed degree in the calves and circulatory system area of the zodiac, which Aquarius rules the calves as well as the circulatory system. And then we have Chiron over there in Pisces, just hanging on for dear life as the North Node gets closer and closer and closer there. There's also that 13 degree Pisces part of fortune. So kicking should be better tonight. We should not see anything faltering from good old Butker. We'll see how that goes. That'll be a new theory to test out. If the part of fortune is nearby, we're going to be okay. But if it's just the North Node, it's a lesson. Once again, we see the Mars rule 12th house with that Jupiter and Aries there for the Chiefs. The key tonight is that childlike joy, childlike playfulness, and not getting hot-headed and losing your cool. Not giving up, not just quitting because you're like, oh shit, I thought it was done. Chris Jones talking to you. Venus in Taurus, I do think that is going to be nicely directly opposite the sun. So maybe there's a little bit of justice for the Chiefs for having so many games lately that seem so controversial. Last week was an outright win, so I don't really know if people are still saying the Chiefs are the refs' favorites. I'm not sure. I don't pay attention to what other people say about the Chiefs. I just love them and don't care. It's great. That's me and my favorite artists listening to them musically. I'm like, I don't care what they say or do. I am listening to the music. Thanks. The 23 degree Mercury retrograde right there on the ascendant right before the first house. I think that we're just going to see them maybe get to a little bit of a slow start, maybe be a little bit not as sure-footed as they normally are, but then quickly get back on track. So that's what I see with the individual games. Let's go ahead and pull up the tri-wheel, and that's where we can make our predictions, or I can make my predictions, and you guys can do the same at home. So go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to go ahead and get started on my numbers to watch for and all of that. Okay, so I went ahead and started with, I wrote down Sagittarius being a number or sign to watch, Pisces, Libra, Scorpio, and Capricorn. Those are going to be the signs to watch for tonight. And I want to just walk you through the process of the numbers because I started going through them and I'm like, wait a second. Um, so tonight we got 0 as we have Uranus right there on the ascendant at 0 degrees. I'm going to start with 0, then 4, which is where the sun is at 4 degrees Scorpio. And then we're going to go to 15, which is where the moon is. 25 is where the vertex is. So that's why we get 25. I'm going to throw out 33 just because that one came to me. Let's also do 48. What's another one? We could do let's say 51. 6, 7. I had to do it just because I've been saying it all week to drive my kids crazy since they've been home last week from school. I'm like 6, 7, and they're like, "Oh my god, mom." Um, maybe a 7, 4 in there, but in a good way, Jawan Taylor. Let's just go ahead and do that. And the funny thing is that Chris Jones, I guess, hadn't had a sack in a while since like for a minute, and then he got one last game. So I did say that Cancers were going to have a game, and then he ended up having one. So that 9-5 was pretty good. I'd like to say that Noah Gray. I haven't done his chart for today's game, but I'm going to say that he's going to have a good game without seeing his chart. Look at that. So, yes. And then Chiefs by 15. So I have Sagittarius, Pisces, Libra, Scorpio, Capricorn, and then all my numbers and Chiefs by 15. If you guys can see that. If not, cool. Whatever. You guys heard it. So that's fine. But yeah, I'm really excited for tonight's game. I do see a lot of this going in a fun, competitive direction. The Commanders have had a lot of ups and downs in the last few years. The Chiefs have had a lot of success in the last few years. So my vision of what's going to happen tonight from that perspective is a little bit skewed because I don't really pay attention to what's actually going on either team. But the stars for tonight's game are what really matters, right? So the alignment of tonight's game, which kicks off at 7:15 p.m. on Monday Night Football. Everyone's excited. We do see the jam-packed first house. I think it's going to be an action-packed game. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I think that the Chiefs are going to have a little bit more ease of managing the pace of today's game, whereas Washington might be getting a little bit emotional and screwing things up pace-wise. Then we go into that third house where we see Jupiter at 24 degrees for tonight's game on the inner ring. Some of you think I just like hallucinate when I stare at these charts. Some people are just like, wait, what do you mean you see all this stuff? How do you see that happening? And I'm like, you don't? Oh, okay. But the good news is it's just synastry. And if you know synastry, then you can read these charts and you can relate them to sports. And it's fun. So that Sun and Pluto conjunction for Washington, which is Washington's on the middle wheel, and then we have the Chiefs North Node on the outside there in that third house. We do see a little bit of a pileup, that Pluto versus the North Node, and then we have Jupiter there amplifying it all. So what has been done in the dark will be brought to light and be focused on as far as the Commanders go. And then for the Chiefs, inching closer and closer to their destiny, right? With each and every visit and nodal return that they go through. But for now, since they are not going to be going through their nodal return for a minute, they just have it trine their north node. So it is getting activated a little bit. That is like, hey, are you going to make this like historical run? Are you guys going to be able to hold up this momentum and hold up this camaraderie? Which I think the third house is also about that sibling type of relationship and those close friendships that can feel like siblings or, cousins too. So as much as the 11th house to me represents the team, it's like the inner workings and the mental structure and the emotional structure and how everything is set up for the teams, I do think falls in the third house of mentality, mindset, communication, siblings, short-term transportation, all those hometown type things, right? So definitely interesting to see there. Going into that fourth house, which has White Moon Lilith in it tonight for the game, and then Mercury, Jupiter, and Juno for the Commanders, and Mars and Pallas Athena for the Chiefs. This is a little bit of aggression over mindset, aggressive action over possibly swiftness or large body. Jupiter can also represent large body energy because Jupiter is a juggernaut of celestial size. Then we have the fifth house with the south node there and south node visit and south node return for the Commanders. And then on the outside, we have Ceres, White Moon Lilith, Pluto, Juno, and Vesta for the Chiefs. So South Node, Moon, and Neptune for Commanders. I feel like that can be a little bit of just wishy-washy of the Neptune, and then having the Moon in Virgo is very critical at the end. So just making sure that those things are not doing too much, like the wishy-washiness of Neptune being like, oh, yes, everything's magical, to the south node of being like, oh my God, let's hyperfixate on the past. And then the moon being like, hey, have you ever thought about criticizing yourself the entire time? Cool. The Chiefs definitely have their Pluto there, which is the planet that Pluto and Uranus in that fifth house. So there will be some electric moments and some very creative plays tonight for the Chiefs. Going to the sixth house, we see that Venus ruled sixth house with Venus, Vertex, and the Sun in there for tonight's game, and empty for Washington, and Neptune and Lilith in there for the Chiefs. So this could just mean more of the energy of, I don't know, some sort of spiritual gain, some sort of feminine spiritual revolution energy there with Lilith on that descendant. Could be a different style of dress. Maybe somebody shows up in all black tonight and looks the part of Lilith on the descendant. Who knows? Going into that seventh and eighth house, which is empty for the Chiefs, and then Pallas Athena there for Washington. I do think that just simply means that they're going to use their head and think smart tonight. So I don't think that we're going to have the same idiotic blow-ups that we had with the Lions and then the Raiders on the field or, off the field. So I think they're going to be a little bit more wise coming into this. And at least Washington's going to take something away learning from this one-to-one competition. Going into that ninth house where we see the moon and Pluto for tonight's game, definitely seeing some activation there with both the Chiefs and Washington. Washington having their Ceres close to the moon and the Chiefs having their south node close to the moon. Then we have Pluto and Saturn there for Washington, Saturn retrograde next to that, conjunct that Pluto on the MC. So definitely a lesson of some sort for Washington tonight as they go into this game. Could be a lesson of on the road things, or could just be a lesson in how to dominate on the road. Like maybe they come out and surprise the Chiefs a little bit and put up a vigorous fight, but I just don't really see that happening with Saturn retrograde on the MC. I think it's more of a showing maybe some downgraded Saturn energy. Saturn at 22 degrees Aquarius, however, in the 10th house, I do think will be loudly on display and in a place where the Chiefs can just show outright domination. So we'll see how that plays out. We have seen that kind of in the other charts that have been Taurus risings, though. So it's been real fun looking at that Chiron and North Node for Washington. And then the Chiefs have that Chiron in Pisces, and the Washington has that North Node in Pisces in that 11th house. with that big old Pisces stellium for tonight's game in the 11th house, like I said, I think things do get a little bit more emotional for Washington. And then we're going to see Chiron out there at 14 degrees for the Chiefs. So I think with the part of fortune also being in that Pisces stellium, we're not going to see Butker slipping as much. We will see Butker actually doing well and kicking well without concern tonight. We have in the 12th house that Chiron retrograde, and then we have for the Washington team on that middle wheel, we have White Moon Lilith, and then we have Uranus in Aries. And then for the Chiefs, we have Jupiter and Aries out there, and then Venus and Mercury retrograde on the ascendant. So Mercury retrograde on the ascendant in Taurus, and then that Venus in Taurus there in the 12th house. And then for Washington, they do have their Vesta in Taurus there at 18 degrees, close to the ascendant. So not quite as close as the Mercury and Moon for the Chiefs, but definitely close by. So I think that part of Washington keeping things going and keeping the fire lit underneath them is going to be through the quarterbacks and through that vision, as well as just like kind of holding the faith, right? So let's go ahead and pull up the quarterbacks chart. We're going to be looking at Patrick Mahomes' chart first. This is his noon chart, so it's his public chart, and we see his moon in that second house of today's game, and the pacing is going to be largely based on him for the Chiefs. Going to that third house, it is empty as this is an untimed chart, so the vertex does not count. Then same with the fourth house. Then we get into the fifth house. We see his palace, Vesta, Sun, Chiron, and Venus all there in the fifth house. So he will be absolutely at the helm of making creative plays for today's game, and I'm super excited for him to be doing that. I think that anytime that we get a Patrick Mahomes in creative mode, it's a fun thing to watch. Looking at his sixth house, we see his Mercury in Libra at 19 degrees conjunct Venus at 17 degrees Libra, as well as his North Node conjunct the vertex and his Mars conjunct the Sun. Mars conjunct the Sun is a Mars Cazimi, and that is very much an energy of elevated action, elevated drive, elevated direction in where you want to go. The Pluto placement in the seventh house in Scorpio, Pluto and Scorpio for Patrick Mahomes is conjunct Mercury today, as well as Mars. So it's a lot of stuff that's transformative aggression that's going to be seeping out of Mr. Mahomes and being directed towards his opponent. And are these the opponents that have caused him strife? No, but I mean, Marcus Mariota always drives us crazy. I don't know why, but he is such a tricky player to play against, which we'll see in the other chart when we look at his quarterback chart. It's literally labeled as Op QB. So the Op QB is Marcus Mariota today. Mahomes' Jupiter is conjunct today's Juno, so I think this is a committed partnership to greatness and excellence at all costs. His Juno is conjunct Vesta in that eighth house by 2 degrees, so that's going to be a little bit of a partnership of keeping the fire going in his team. Then we have in the ninth house his 22 degree Neptune and 26 degree Uranus, both in Capricorn station retrograde, both of them in that ninth house. So if anything, he's going to be what shakes up the travel team today. Going into that 10th house, we don't see anything for Patrick, but we do see Saturn retrograde. He's going through his Saturn return, and that Saturn retrograde in the 11th house is conjunct Saturn retrograde at 25 degrees and also conjunct the North Node. So with that being said, having his Neptune, his Neptune sextile with Saturn, there can be some confusion around the spiritual side of Saturn retrogrades, but it's definitely something that I think he's feeling, and he's upgrading and transforming each and every day. Going into that 12th house, we do see his South Node as well as his White Moon Lilith conjunct Chiron and Aries, and that can be very much a mentally transformative thing, whether your outlook on feminine energy or your outlook on the role of feminine energy in your life, or embodying feminine energy in a mental way, or learning how to receive and maybe be more in tune with your own feminine energy could be an energy that he's experiencing. Who knows? Definitely going to be curious to see for today's game, though, how he leads them to victory. Marcus Mariota. All right. What a powerhouse. He's got that Mercury, Mars, and Pluto conjunction all in Scorpio, as well as his sun in Scorpio. So that makes for a jam packed area. Honestly, if Marcus Mariota wanted to quit football and go be a chess master, his north node at 3 degrees Sagittarius is the degree of chess. It's two men playing chess in the Sabian symbols, and that'd be really cool. Maybe if he tries to do that tonight, that'd be really lit. Like maybe go be a chess master and don't play football tonight, Marcus Mariota. Um, Seeing that his moon is trine tonight's moon in Capricorn, his moon in Taurus is trine that moon in Capricorn, as well as that south node in Virgo. So his moon makes a grand earth trine with the moon tonight, as well as south node tonight. So that'll be an interesting energy. His Chiron is in the fifth house, and that is his greatest weakness as well as his greatest strength point. So that's interesting. Tonight we do see his Uranus and Neptune conjunction at 18 degrees in Capricorn, conjunct the moon as well as opposite that Jupiter. So that'll be interesting to see. He does have his Saturn loosely dancing around the chief Saturn. So we'll see how that goes with that 22-degree chief Saturn and that 1 degree. That's not a loose conjunction, Gracey. A tight conjunction with the chief Saturn. So, maybe that's why he drives the Chiefs crazy. He comes in and he's just like, hey, I've got the same Saturn as you. I was born, 30 years after you guys were formed, but still got the same Saturn. But the one saving grace that we do see is that his moon is in that 12th house for tonight's game. So maybe he won't beat up the Chiefs as much. Right? Right. We love to see it. But I'm excited that he's going through his Venus return. He's got his Jupiter right there, conjunct the vertex. So I think he should be nice and healthy and safe tonight. But I do see the Chiefs, like I said, winning by 15 points as the moon is at 15 degrees Capricorn. And the moon has been signifying all the scores for me. And I'm learning how to use the moon for proper reasons and use the moon to cast light on the rest of the chart. And as the moon is the quickest changing point in a chart, it's fun to show how it impacts things. So last week the moon was at 13 degrees, so I said the Chiefs were going to win by 13. They ended up winning by 31, so flipped it, reversed it, whatever you want to call it. Missy Elliott, shout out. There's so much that we can continue learning through all this stuff, so I'm really grateful that you guys have been here with me this whole time. I've been streaming for about an hour or so I'm going to go ahead and switch over. Not the ending scene. You guys don't need to have me cut out that quickly. I feel like I would give a better ending than just being like, peace out, I'm done. So, like I said, Chiefs winning tonight by 2 touchdowns. So, if you guys want to take that to the sports betting apps, that's on you. I am not encouraging anything. I even gave a 1-800 bets off shout out last week. I'm like, absolutely not. I will not have someone's sports gambling downfall on me. No, no, no. So if you guys are going to be betting, bet responsibly. Don't bet things that you don't have. I think that is the loudest ringing, lesson that I can share from any of my, debaucherous activities that I did back in the day. I absolutely was a degenerate and was betting on Lithuanian basketball at 8:00 in the morning because I wanted to make $10 and see if I could turn that into 20. And I was learning languages and trying to figure out stats and seeing how things were. And I was going for it. And, when you're at that level of sports betting, I think you can sit back and say, okay, maybe this is a little bit too far. But for me, I was like, hell no, let's keep going. So always fun. What I'm up to these days, though, is a lot more tame. That was a very George W. Bush moment of me. I'm going to show a book upside down. This is my Working with the Sabian Symbols book. I'm super excited for everyone to learn more about the Sabian symbols as time goes on. If you've been confused about what I've been talking about, they're the individual symbols that come with each and every degree of the zodiac. And it's one of the most fascinating things that you can do is look into your Sabian symbol astrology in your own chart. And so much of my chart is loudly represented through these symbols that were channeled in 1925 by Elsie Wheeler and transcribed by Mark Edmund Jones, who is director of the Sabian Assembly. And Definitely an interesting way to approach, symbols of the zodiac. Definitely a way to do things differently and think outside the box. And it's very much something that we haven't heard people doing. But then, like, people come along, right? And they're like, I know how to do this better than these two. So I'm going to channel the symbols how I see fit. And it's like, I get it. As an Aries, I get it. As an Aries, I like to be first at everything. I like to do things first. I like to do things my own way. I like to do things how I see fit. But that's also because I'm a 5-1 ego manifester in human design. I have all these things that I've armed myself with that I know myself so thoroughly because of. And it's like, if you know what you're driven by, it makes life so much easier. So if I can encourage anyone to do anything this Scorpio season, it would be dive into yourself. Dive into the magic that exists within you. Dive into your structure through astrology and your birth chart or your human design chart. Seek information, not from Chat GPT or other AI bots. My mom even told me she was looking up how to be a human, essentially, through asking Gemini AI how to do certain things. And I'm like, can you please, for the love of God, like, try an interaction with a human instead? So I just want to encourage people to stop using these things that are like just there to tell you what you want to hear, because they're not always right, especially with astrology. Go to people that are in motion, that are sharing, look up YouTube videos. Not everyone is going to be a person that you resonate with. I'm not going to resonate with somebody who isn't 100% sure of themselves all the time, right? I'm a very, very strong force. I can come off as intimidating to people that don't truly know themselves. And when that happens, I'm like, hey, it's okay. You'll find me when you're supposed to. And a lot of people find me when they're ready to go and dive deeper into themselves and learn more than just a surface level type of astrology. I'm not going to get into like ancient techniques. I am not the one to tell you about sex. I'm not sex, sect, SECTS, and lots and parts of things. I know the part of fortune. I know the vertex. I know the celestial bodies. I know what I like to work with the asteroids. I know me and like what I do. And it's not anything too out of the box. It is simply looking at all of these symbols and learning how to interpret it and do so with ethics. I think a huge part of being an astrologer is having ethics. I don't fuck with people that don't have strong ethics. I have such a strong moral code as a Capricorn stellium, including my Capricorn, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and Mars, all nicely tight and conjunct. I just don't enjoy people who don't live by a strong moral code either. And I didn't enjoy myself when I didn't live by a strong moral code. I thought myself weak when I wasn't able to live up to my own standards. So I don't like get mad that people can't live up to my standards. I can't even live up to my standards sometimes. And that's when I have to adjust things, right? So the Capricorn side of me is just like staunch, unmoving, unwavering. But the Pisces side of me, which is sextile Capricorn, is like flow, learn to flow, create, flow. And then the Scorpio side, which is also sextile Capricorn, is also demanding flow. And my Pluto in Scorpio is very much like, hey, you are here to deeply understand yourself through art, through creation, through lovers, through children, through all the things that the fifth house offers. And I've done that. And I'm doing that. So it's like there's a lot of things that I think when you don't have a strong code of ethics, you just team up with anyone, or you settle to be in a space with somebody just because they simply recognize you, or because they might have a funny tweet or two. That doesn't mean that you need to align everything with that person. And that just shows like have some discernment. It's have a strong moral code and have some discernment, and don't believe everything you read. Don't believe everything you see. Find out for yourself a lot of times if you're a mercurial at all, or if you have Mercury rule placements that are strong in your chart. It's good to keep an open mind and keep a stream of adaptability going, because if you don't have any sort of adaptability in your brain, you're going to stifle so much that could be coming your way as far as opportunity and growth. So if I could tell anyone anything, it's have a strong moral code and continue to keep it in place and continue to elevate yourself and hold yourself to your standards while keeping an open mind and learning what that looks like for you. I think the last year of my creative process has been going into collaboration mode and then being like, I don't like it here. And it's not because I can't co-create. I love co-creating. I amazingly got to co-create this amazing book, right? This amazing book with three other people. I'm like, four other people. I'm included in that. Alessia, Amanda, Jamal, and myself. We are all in here as co-creation of this year. And I've talked about this book in Instagram comments. I've referred to it as like, I wrote this book, the Book of Astrology of 2025, so people could know that this is unprecedented energy. This is unprecedented type of atmosphere that we're going through in this astrological year. So once again, the year is not over. If you have felt like you are behind, it is only Scorpio season. We're going into the second half of the year. We have until March 21st, I believe, of 2026 for spring equinox to kick off. So please don't beat yourself up at all. I don't want to hear any sort of things like, I'm behind, I haven't done shit this year. It's like, no, you have so much time left. So continue finding the things that you love, continue finding your passions, and don't let others without morals tell you how to live, breathe, or run your practice, whatever that may be, whether it's a ritual type of practice you have, whether it's a spiritual practice, astrology practice, or a life coaching practice, a guidance practice, whatever it is that you do and whatever it is that you offer this world, do it with integrity and do it without lowering your standards. That is your message from your favorite Capricorn, Mars ruled Aries. Yay, exalted sun ruled by my exalted Mars. Those are my things. And stop using lol at the end of a sentence. You do not need to end a sentence with LOL. That is the only thing I will tell you to stop doing. Like, don't say something real serious and be like, LOL. Hope it doesn't come off as too aggressive. I just learned what the love of my life was talking to me the other day, and I'm like, I said something and it was like a sideways way of being aggressive. It was like a dulled down. I thought I was being nice because I was just not saying what I was actually meaning to say. He's like, "No, babe, that's just called being passive aggressive." And I was like, "Oh shit," cuz I'm just aggressive. Like, let's be real. If I have a problem with somebody, I have to stop myself from like calling people out on stream sometimes. But I don't have a problem with confrontation or being aggressive. I am very much an aggressive human being, and all of my other internet personas and the years leading up to this version of me have been incredibly aggressive, to the point where I have been like front facing, known, getting in fights via the internet, aggressive. So that was part of my personality before. I don't really feel like fighting people these days. I have a lot more shit to do. Like, I have so many things that I could be doing on a daily basis and that I do on a daily basis that are nothing to do with fighting and nothing to do with provoking people on the internet, because that's not who I am anymore. But like, boy, was that a large part of my life from 2009 to like 2019, 2020. Okay, 2021. I think that's when I left my media life and when I deleted my old media Twitter in like 2022. I really just was like, this personality's gone. She doesn't live anymore. She doesn't exist anymore. And I have like a collection of tweets that people sent out like, oh my God, is Gat dead? Gat, my initials, GAT is what everyone called me. To the point where I even have a little lighter that has my initials on it. I don't know if it'll show it. Yeah, you can see. Is it? No, it's still not working. But I have a lighter with my initials on it. Shows GAT right there. And that's what everyone called me. So now that I go by Gracey, it's way more of who I am as a person. I am an adult. I do have a range of emotions. I am compassionate. I am passionate about life. I have the fire of 1,000 suns in me, as I like to remind people, and the direction that it takes me, who knows where it goes. But knowing that I have grown and developed as a person over the years makes it all the better. So that's what I can do. I can just be proud of myself for improving over the years and not leading with anger. That's a good start. Because when I see people correcting others, like on social media about astrology, I'm like, who hurt you? Who's monitoring you too closely and you feel like you need to do this to other people? Because it's so unnatural for me to be like, oh, this person's wrong. I just mute them and I don't ever have to talk to them. And you can do that. It's possible. You don't have to overcorrect people on the internet. You don't have to fight with people on the internet. You don't have to be angry about things you read on the internet. The internet is just something that shouldn't affect your mood. You should just be able to log on, do things, and log off. It's not that serious. You cannot live your life there. So encourage all people to do things in real life, send letters through the mail, get back to living in snail pace time. The less I'm on my phone, the less I respond to things, the less that I'm like immediately available, the better my life is. And that's just how it goes. And tonight is absolutely no difference. I will absolutely be enjoying the game with the love of my life and my children if they decide to watch. So I hope you all have an amazing Monday. I hope you're enjoying this grand cardinal cross as much as you can and all this grand water energy, grand water trine that we're experiencing. It's definitely not easy, and these times can be a lot to deal with. So if you can meditate, if you can breathe, if you can ground yourself with Gaia and sit back and be able to know that you're giving it your best effort. One of my favorite books to read is The Four Agreements, and it's always do your best, be impeccable with your word, don't take it personal, and oh my gosh, it's always do your best, be impeccable with your word, don't take it personal, and there's another one. I'm going to forget it, but it's clearly I need to go back and read the Four Agreements because whenever I forget one, I'm like, that's the one I need to talk about more. So, all of that being said, if you guys want to explore your spirituality more, there's links on my link tree that you can click on, and it's both on my YouTube and my Twitter page, which I'm live on both right now. So you can go on there and see my recommended books. You can check out the books that I've written or the books that I've helped others publish. All through those links too. You can check out my guidebooks that are all free. You can check out all my magazines that are also free. And I'm finally going to get to some paid offerings this coming year, okay? I've given a lot to everyone for free. I've had lower prices in the past. And, you know, some people might notice that my prices are pretty high on my website because my time is hella valuable these days. So I respect each and every one of you and your dedication to understanding the stars and yourself. Don't give up. If it seems hard or if it seems overwhelming, please keep going. Astrology is a language that you can learn to speak forever. And I know that I will be continuing my education each and every day that I'm alive with the stars. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for you all. So once again, go Chiefs. Excited to see you guys next week. It'll be a little bit earlier as we have a Sunday 3:00 game. So that's how you know I really love what I do if I wake up early and put on makeup for you all. So have a great Monday, and I hope you all enjoy the game. Talk to you later.